Hare Krishna, everybody. Please accept my humble obeisances. All goes Sri Prabhupada. Let's offer prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Budhirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhavata Sevaya Bhavati Uttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nastiki Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gnanajana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Sopadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Utpatakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Sri Vishakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishubhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kupasindubhyev cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna everyone. Please accept my humble obeisances. All goes through Prabhupada. Let me pull up the verse for today. 119. Okay. Yeah, would one of you like to read this verse?
Sure, Prabhu, I can read.
Sure.
Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 9, 19, text number 3. Advaiva Rajyam Balam Radhakosham Prakopita Brahmana Kulana Lome Dahatva Abhadrasya Punarname Abhut Papi Asitir Dvijadeva Gopyaha. Synonyms: Adya, this day; Eva, on the very; Rajyam, kingdom; Balam, Riddha, strength and riches; Kosham, treasury; Prakapita, ignited by; Brahma Kula, by the Brahmana community; Anala, fire; Me Dahatu, let it burn me; Abhradrashya, inauspiciousness; Punah, again; Na, not; Me, unto me; Abhut, may occur; Papiyasi, sinful; the, intelligence; Dvija, Brahmanas; Deva, the Supreme Lord; Gopyaha, and the cows. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. I am uncivilized and sinful due to my neglect of Brahmanical culture, God consciousness, and cow protection. Therefore, I wish that my kingdom, strength, and riches burn up immediately by the fire of the Brahmana's breath, so that in the future I may not be guided by such inauspicious attitudes. Purport: Progressive human civilization is based on Brahmanical culture, God consciousness, and protection of cows. All economic development of the state by trade, commerce, agriculture, and industries must be fully utilized in relation to the above principles. Otherwise, all so-called economic development becomes a source of degradation. Cow protection means feeding the Brahmanical culture, which leads toward God consciousness, and thus perfection of human civilization is achieved. The age of Kali aims at killing the higher principle of life, and although Maharaj Parikshit strongly resisted the domination of the personality of Kali within the world, the influence of the age of Kali came at an opportune moment, and even a strong king like Maharaj Parikshit was induced to disregard the Brahmanical culture due to a slight provocation of hunger and thirst. Maharaj Parikshit lamented the accidental incident, and he desired that all his kingdom, strength, and accumulation of wealth would be burned up for not being engaged in Brahmanical culture, etc. Bro, I forgot what we discussed last week because I don't think I joined. But just on the purport, so I'm not able to give what happened in the last few verses. But just on this purport,
Did you finish the second paragraph also?
what is it?
Did you finish the second paragraph also?
Oh, no. Okay.
Ah,
Where wealth and strength are not engaged in the advancement of Brahmanical culture, God consciousness, and car protection, the state and home are sorely doomed by providence. If we want peace and prosperity in the world, we should take lessons from this verse. Every state and every home must endeavor to advance the cause of Brahmanical culture for self-purification, God consciousness for self-realization, and cow protection for getting sufficient milk and the best food to continue a perfect civilization. So, Prabhu, you'll give the. I just have a few points to make on this one,
yeah,
just on the purport because I forgot what happened last week.
sure.
So on this one, Srila Prabhupada is emphasizing the Brahmanical and cow protection for the betterment of human society. And he's saying that having great confirmation, having this installed in your life, basically protecting the cows, and because cow is so important to our lives, like giving milk and then all the sweets that we eat and all that. So basically it's just the having a cow and protecting the cow will just like our civilization will be more Brahmanical. So he's just making connection between Brahmanical and cow protection. And then he talks about how Maharaj Parikshit, because of because he was traveling in the forest and because of hunger and thirst, he sort of put the snake around the rishi, but it was just an opportune moment that the gully had to enter during that time. So he was just a messenger, basically. And it was just an accidental incident. So basically, the emphasis on the Brahmanical culture on this purport, and very important for us as well, and not like because the age of Kali is progressing. If we focus on the Brahmanical culture, cow protection, it'll be best for our perfect civilization. I think that's all I got, Prabhu. I mean, there's so much to say, but just to gist.
Yeah, nice, Madhu. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Yeah. So basically, the context was in the last chapter, Maharaj Parishit put the snake around that Samik Rishi, right? After that, the son of the sage cursed him that he will die in 7 days with the snake bite. And then after that, he comes to his father, Samik Rishi, and then Samik Rishi regrets that his son did such a big, such an offense towards a great king and a great devotee king like that. And then now the last two verses of this chapter basically focused on Maharaj Parishit thinking, oh, did I make a mistake? The stage may be really in trance. Why did he do like that? That is the context where it's going on. Last couple of verses. Basically, was thinking that, and then the second verse was he was saying that for my mistake, some calamity may come to me. So that way, I don't repeat this mistake again. So that I don't. Yeah, same thing, similar to this verse also. Yeah, I don't repeat my mistake again, but my family should not be disturbed because of that. Like that, I was thinking. So same thing here also is wanting to do. What is he wanting to do? That for this for the neglectful activity he did, which is considered sinful and also uncivilized, he wanted that whatever opulences he has, which is kingdom in terms of wealth, his own personal strength, and in terms of riches, other wealth that he might have. Kingdom also implies influence, followers like that also. So basically, he wants all of those things to go away. So that way, in future, he will not do the similar things again like that. That is the point he's making. So like you nicely indicated, Prabhupada is focusing on cow protection and Brahminical culture in the purport. So we can discuss briefly. This topic is very elaborately discussed throughout Bhagavatam, specifically several times in Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto itself. For example, today morning verses we are discussing was first canto, 16th chapter itself. I was making some notes in the morning. Fourth verse talks about the importance of milk of cows. Prabhupada writes in the purport for the fourth verse of 16th chapter. He says, all necessary vitamins to sustain human civilization for higher achievements, all of them will come from milk, like that. That's one statement he makes about milk. And then he says, food with milk, grains, and fruits is needed for increasing the mode of goodness, he says. Obviously, mode of goodness means eating vegetarian food like that, right? Including milk also. Then, by increasing the goodness, what will it help? It will help in Brahminical culture advancement, like that. Prabhupada writes in the purport there. So, remember, when you look at Bhagavad Gita, the four varnas and four ashtamas, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra, right? Those are four varnas. The way they divided, one way to look at it is based on the material modes of nature that is prominent in one person, like that also. That's one way to look at it. So that means the Brahmanas are predominantly mode of goodness, like that we hear. And Kshatriyas are predominantly in mode of passion with some mix of other goodness. And then Vaishyas are predominantly in mode of passion and ignorance mixture, like that. And then Sudras are mainly in ignorance, like that. So in that connection, by increasing mode of goodness, Brahmil culture is increasing. That is the point Prabhupada is making. But for increasing mode of goodness, we need to have food that is coming from cows, like milk, like that he is describing. So now, that is one place he is describing. So now, what is the goal of life? Goal of life is to be situated in our original position with the love awakened for Krishna, right? To achieve that goal of life, mode of goodness is helpful. Because from mode of goodness, we can go to transcendence, that is beyond the mode of goodness. That is, from Suddha Sattva, we can go to Vishuddha Sattva, like that. Like that. Or ordinary Sattva to pure Sattva, like that. Pure goodness, like that. So that is why mode of goodness is important, like that. Number one way. Another way to look at it is, for a goal of life, Brahmana's guidance is important. Brahminical culture is important because that will support Brahmana's association. Specifically, Prabhupada writes in the previous chapter, Brahmanas here means Brahmana Vaishnavas, like that Prabhupada says. So they're helpful to grow our knowledge, spiritual knowledge, and cultivate spiritual practices. They will guide us, like that. So in that sense, so that is important. Brahminical culture is important. So that's why he's feeling bad that he neglected Brahminical culture. That means specifically he insulted a Brahmana, like that, and he neglected God consciousness and cow production, is saying. Because cow in the kingdom, cows are being are affected because of the Kali's influence, right? That was there in previous few chapters ago, like that. So that's what is bringing up the points. So that's why Prabhupada is making a point that Brahminic culture leads towards cow production, feeds Brahminic culture, which leads towards God consciousness and thus perfection of human civilization. That means if you want to have a peaceful place, that's what Prabhupada is writing, right? If you want peace and prosperity, then what we need to do? We should endeavor towards advancing Brahminical culture. Why? That will lead to self-purification, God consciousness, two aspects, and then cow production for getting sufficient milk. Okay, this is important again. To continue perfect civilization. Prabhupada writes in another different purport that milk is helpful, cow's milk is helpful uh, for nourishing the finer tissues of the brain that helps us to understand subtle spiritual topics, like that Prabhupada talks about. That's another reason. Of course, we know, we talked about this topic before. Other importance of cow is cow's milk products are very helpful for doing deity worship or yagna, fire sacrifices, like ghee, yogurt, milk. All these things are important for doing any kind of deity worship or abhishekam or fire sacrifice like that. So that's in that sense also, cows production is important like that. So that's what he's saying. This is an important attitude we were discussing last week also. Is an important attitude we need to cultivate, that taking responsibility for our actions and then facing it ourselves instead of giving it to somebody else. Okay. If I don't speak anything, they will think that person did by the mistake. Let him suffer like that. That's not the way to Vaishnava way. Vaishnava way, we accept responsibility for a mistake. Of course, that doesn't mean all the mistakes we advertise to the whole world. That doesn't mean that. At least from our internal consciousness, we're ready to accept. If the situation comes, we're ready to accept our mistake and do the needful, take the needful corrective action also. So that is that. This whole chapter is this first section especially is focusing on Brahmanical culture, how it is important like that. We know also Lord Krishna gives so much importance to Brahmanical culture. We know his pranam mantra itself says Namo Brahmane Devaya Go Brahmana Icha Icha. His welfare, he is interested in welfare of both cows and Brahmanas and also rest of us like that it says. Jagaditaya Krishna Govindaya Namo Namaha, right? That right? So for Krishna also, Brahmanas and cows are important. Why? Again, because they're helping in his mission to take us back to Godhead. That is the idea. So I'll pause there. Any comments or questions on this verse? Okay, we can go to the next one. Someone next would like to read?
Can read, Prabhuji.
Yeah, Srimad.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Shri Prabhupada, Vanchakalpatar, Shukasandi Bhavachapatanam Bhavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna. So it's Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 19, verse 4. Sa chintanam itam arthashnod yatha mune shutokto nirtish takshayaksha sorry takshayaksha sadhu menena chirena takshaka nalam prashaktasya virakti karanam. Okay, so synonyms and purport synonyms. Sa means he, the king. He means the king. Chintayan, thinking. Etvam is like this. Atha means now. Ashranot means heart. Yatha means as. Mune means of the sage. Suta yukta means uttered by the sun. Nriti means state. Takshaka akhyat means in relation with the snake bird. He, the king. Sadhu, were or and good. Mene means accepted. Na means not. Chirena means long, very long time. Takshaka means snake bird. Analam means the fire. Prashaktasha means for one who is too attached. Virakti means indifference. Karanam means cause. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So while the king was thus repenting, he received news of his imminent death, which would be due to the bite of a snake bird, occasioned by the curse spoken by the sage's son. The king accepted this as good news. for it would be the cause of his indifference toward worldly things. Purport. Real happiness is achieved by the spiritual existence or by cessation of the repetition of birth and death. One can stop the repetition of birth and death only by going back to God. In the material world, even by attaining the topmost planet, Brahmaloka, one cannot get rid of the conditions of repeated birth and death, but still we do not accept the path of attaining perfection. The path of perfection frees one from all material attachment, and thus one becomes fit to enter in the spiritual kingdom. Therefore, those who are materially poverty stricken are better candidates than those who are materially prosperous. Maharaja Parikshit was a great devotee of the Lord and a bona fide candidate of entering into the kingdom of God. But even though he was so his material assets. Material assets as the emperor of the world were setbacks to perfect attainment of his rightful status as one of the associates of the Lord in the spiritual sky. As a devotee of the Lord, he could understand that the cursing of the Brahmana boy, although unwise, was a blessing upon him, being the cause of the detachment from worldly affair, both political and social. Samika Muni also, after regretting the incident, conveyed the news to the king as a matter of duty so that the king would be able to prepare himself to go back to Godhead. Samika Muni sent news to the king that foolish Ringi, his son, although a powerful Brahmana boy, unfortunately has misused his spiritual power by cursing the king, unwarrantedly. The incident of the king scolding the Muni was not a sufficient cause for being cursed to the death. But since there was no way to retract the curse, the king was informed to prepare for death within a week. Both Samika Muni and the king were self-realized souls. Samika Muni was mystic and Samika Muni was a mystic and Maharaja Parikshit was a devotee. Therefore, there was no difference between them in self-realization. Neither of them was afraid of meeting death. Maharaja Parikshit could have gone to the Muni to beg his pardon, but the news of imminent death was conveyed to the king with so much regret by the Muni that king did not want to shame the Muni further by his presence there. He decided to prepare himself for his imminent death and find out the way to go back to Godhead. The life of a human being is a chance to prepare oneself to go back to Godhead or to get rid of the material existence, the repetition of birth and death. Thus, in the system of Varnashrama Dharma, every man and woman is trained for this purpose. In other words, in the system of Varnashrama Dharma is known as a Sanatan Dharma, or the eternal occupation. The system of Varnashrama Dharma prepares a man for going back to Godhead, and thus a householder is ordered to go to the forest as a vanaprastha to acquire complete knowledge and then to take sannyasa prior to his inevitable death. Maharaja Parikshit Maharaja was fortunate to get a 7-day notice to meet his inevitable death, but for the common man, there is no definite notice, although the death is inevitable for all. Foolish men forget this sure fact of death and neglect the duty of preparing themselves for going back to Godhead. They spoil their lives and they spoil their lives in animal propensities to eat, drink, to marry, and enjoy. Such an irresponsible life is adopted by the people in age of Kali because of a sinful desire to condemn the Brahmanical culture, God consciousness, and cow protection for which the state is responsible. The state must employ revenue to advance these three items and thus educate the populace to prepare for death. The state which does so is a real welfare state. The state of India should better follow the examples of Maharaja Parikshit, the ideal executive head, than to imitate other materialistic states which have no idea of the kingdom of God and the ultimate goal of human life. Deterioration of the ideals of Indian civilization has brought about the deterioration of civic life, not only in India but also abroad. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna to all the devotees. So there it is a big purport, and from this purport I could, with your mercy, I could collect a few points. First of all, the big picture of this purport is the preparation, the mindset for the preparation of death of Maharaja Parikshit, and that teaches us that although Maharaja Parikshit has noticed that within 7 days the death is coming, but for us there is no such notice, although the death is inevitable. But in today's society, now comes to the second points, that although everyone knows that the death is inevitable, but there is no preparation for death. Even today's society, today's world are living in the mode of ignorance, that they do not even appreciate the Brahmanical culture that prepares once the people for the death, and for the death by which one can stop the repetition of birth and death. Means today's society, I meant to say that today's society even doesn't appreciate the Brahmanical culture that prepares the human for the death that can end the repetition of birth and death. In a short, the death with the remembrance of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this is the second aspect. Third aspect in that I could get from this purport is that previously previously we saw that how Maharaja Parikshit was thinking that, oh, I did the mistake, means I should do some repentance so that the bad thing should affect me only, not my whole family and the whole samrajya, the whole reign. So but here we can see that when he was noticed by the news of the curse by Samikamuni's son Shringi was make Maharaja Parikshit know. Then instead of getting shocked, or instead of getting, like as a normal person does, that instead of getting shocked, or instead of lamenting, Maharaja Parikshit takes is as a boon, as a tool of his repentance. So he felt happy. So this is the third point, and the Maharaja Parikshit took it very positively. Also, the fourth point that I noticed, that Maharaja Parikshit doesn't want doesn't wasted the time to go to Maharaja, sorry, Rishi Shamika, and seek forgiveness and all those means with with these works, because of two reasons. First, he the news was sent with so much regret by by Rishi Shamik, that Maharaja Parikshit don't wanted to make Rishi Shamik feel guilt for his for what his son Shringi did. So Maharaja Parikshit, even on the verge of death, he is so sensitive to the feelings of other person. Uh, from from which whose side the he got the curse even. And second, he wanted to utilize whatever the time in his life is left. He wanted to utilize in a correct way, in a very in a very crisp and perfect way, to remember Krishna. So he was in a hurry to remember Krishna, that I should not waste much time, and I should utilize the time for self realization. Although, or he's already self realized. That brings to the fifth point, where it is Prabhupada has mentioned that Rishi Shamik was a Rishi Shamik was a practitioner of uh, like Jnana Yoga, or I don't know, but anything else. But Maharaja Parikshit was a devotee. So they both are equally self-realized. So so this is what should we understand, that bhakti yoga, by performing bhakti yoga, by being a true devotee, true pure devotee of Lord Krishna, one can be one actually be the self-realized person and escape the repetition of birth and death. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Krishna.
Yeah, thank you, Mataji, for nicely
Mataji,
summarizing.
very beautiful, Mataji. Such a cute and very nice explanation. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank you so much, Mataji. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
yeah,
Hare
thank you,
Krishna.
Mataji. Yeah, anyone else has any comments? I have a couple of things I can share also, but if anybody has any other comments, please go ahead. Yeah, Parampur Mataji summarized nicely. The one of the main thing we need to take from this verse is that how Mataji described as the third point, I think, that how King accepted this as good news, because King being a devotee, and he took it because it would be a cause of his indifference towards worldly things like that. We also notice this in Vidura's life also. If you remember, Vidura was insulted by Duryodhana, and he left the palace thinking that this is for his good only, so that he can spend more time going to pilgrimage and perfecting his life. Like that, he was thinking like that. So devotees, uh, all circumstances, we as practicing devotees, we see circumstances in our life, how that can be suitable for increasing our severity or intensity of our devotional service. So when we are in that mood, how can we be in that mood? When we prioritize devotional service of the highest. our ultimate goal of our life is the highest. When you prioritize that, then we see everything happening, how it can support bhakti, how things may not be supporting bhakti like that, we'll understand clearly. So that is what is happening here. Because Parishit Maharaj is very focused, clear on the goal of life. So that's why he was seeing this an opportunity. Wow, I can take a more bhakti like that. For example, so practicing devotees, for example, sometimes we want to go somewhere, but we're not able to go so for some reason. Then we got extra time. Then that extra time we can use it for doing more devotion service like that. So that's a way to see the this is what it means by how devotees see difficult circumstances also as a blessing, right? How is this a blessing? That Prabhupada was explaining this particular point I highlighted, that it is causing indifference towards worldly things. Prabhupada used the word as detachment towards material things. So this situation can bring about detachment. What did Parishit Maharaj do after this? He actually left the kingdom and then went to the bank of the river and then fasted till death, right? So that he used this circumstance to develop more and more detachment. Why that is important? Because when we're attached to material things, when we're attached to sense gratification, then we cannot simultaneously develop attachment towards Krishna. That is why the detachment towards material things is required. And beauty of Bhakti Yoga process is we'll develop attachment towards Krishna, and simultaneously and proportionate to our attachment to Krishna, we'll develop attachment towards worldly things also. So that's why that's one of the main important point made in the purport. And then also another important point is about Prabhupada was stressing about how Varnashma, following Varnashma is important. Specifically, Prabhupada was stressing about importance of Vanaprastha and Sannyas life later on. So that's also important for us. We should not think always, oh, how can I enjoy with my family? How can I take care of my children such a way that they will take care of me when they grow up and they're doing job? I'll sit nicely at home and they will take care of me nicely. So that's not the goal of life. Goal of life is progressively develop our personal self-realization, God relation like that. So towards that end, we need to spend more and more time towards Krishna, especially as we get older. That's the stage of life called Vanaprastha, where we dedicate most of our time in the day for spirituality instead of taking care of this thing, that thing, making more money or taking care of the family like that. That's the idea. That's the later stage. But to get to that Vanaprastha stage, we need to prepare right now. We need to make baby steps consistently to grow in our sadhana. That means we need to make sadhana our priority right now. That means we need to chant our rounds in the morning every day, hear every day, read every day, do our deity worship every day. These are the things that we need to cultivate regularly, and we need to watch ourselves after every 1 month, every 2 months. How am I doing? Am I in the same situation as last month, or am I a little better in devotion service? Am I spending a little bit more time on devotion service or lesser time on devotion service? That is important to watch. Otherwise, we'll get distracted suddenly with something. Something will come in the life, it will distract us. So, whatever big things happen, we need to stay focused on our devotion service. So, when I was, of course, this brings a doubt. One time, one devotee was asking. So now, okay, every day I need to do sadhana in the morning. But in Janmashtami day, I will wake up till 12 o'clock for welcoming Krishna. And next day morning, I need to get up and go to the temple for Srila Prabhupada Appearance Day. What should I do? So that is the question he was asking. See, our mind is so tricky. So 1 year has 365 days. Okay. Out of those 365 days, 2 days we have a problem to get up in the morning because we slept late, right? So the mind is suggesting, because I cannot get up on Janmashtami day, now I'll not get up for the whole year. So that kind of tricky thing. So we need to be careful. So basically, it's not like devotion service is not 1 or 0. It's not like rules and regulations. So we do the best in our circumstances. We make our circumstances in such a way that favorable for bhakti. So that way we can do our sadhana most of the days. For example, I'm able to do morning chanting 5 days a week instead of 7 days a week. That is still great. Instead of doing that, oh, anyway, I'm missing 2 days, let me not do any day. That's the conclusion our mind proposes sometimes. So we should be careful with that kind of proposals and instead incrementally do better in our devotional service as we grow every week, every month, every year, like that. In fact, in this context, I'll tell you, it's very important for us to have long-term goals, because when we have long-term goals means really long-term, 10 years from now, 20 years now from now, what do I want to be? We need to take some time, one day, half an hour, sit for half an hour and write it down on a piece of paper. And it doesn't need to be big things, only maximum 10 goals we should have. Otherwise, we can keep on going, papers. 10 maximum goals we should have for our lifetime or next 10 years, next 20 years. Once we have that, then actually you can see that we can have a shorter term goals. What do I need to do in 1 year? What do I need to do in 1 month? Like that. Then we can progress. If we don't do that, then we'll keep on going at the same stage for years together, like that, or even regress also. So, of course, we need to be careful to consider our life circumstances also. For example, suddenly we might get a health challenge, suddenly we might get a family emergency. We need to deal with them. But still, the long term trajectory we should not lose. That is the principle we need to learn. It's okay, 1 month, 6 months, we're not able to increase any devotion service. That's perfectly okay. But because if we have the long term goal in mind, then after 6 months, we should go like that. The first moment we have an opportunity from in our circumstance, we need to grow like that. So that's why Prabhupada is emphasizing the importance of human form of life here also in this purport. So Prabhupada also is emphasizing from the previous verse how God's civilization, Brahminical culture and co-production, we need to advance, help in that also. He is emphasizing the previous verse one more time in the purport also. So those are few thoughts. Any other comments or questions? If not, we can go to the next verse. Let me take to the next verse. Yeah, someone would like to read the 5th verse?
Can I read?
Yeah, yes, Mate, please go ahead.
अथो विहाय इमम् अमं चालोकं विमर्शितः हे हेयता यत्तया पुरु पुरस्तत कृष्ण अंगिरी सेवां अधिहि मनाया मनः उपावसित परायम अमृतानंदयम नदयम synonym translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Atho thus vihaya, giving up imam, this among, and the next cha also lokam, planets, vimarshito, all of them being judged, hayataya, because of inferiority, purastata, herein before Krishna, Agnir, the lotus feet of the Lord, Shri Krishna, Seva, transcendental loving service, Adhi mana, one who thinks of the greatest of all achievements, avishat, sat down firmly, prayam, for fasting, amartya, Nadayam. On the bank of the transcendent Nadiyam river, the gangs of the Yamuna. Translation. Maharaj Parishad sat down firmly on the banks of the Ganga to concentrate his mind in Krishna consciousness, rejecting all other practices of self-realization, because transcendental loving service to Krishna is the greatest achievement, superseding all other methods. For a devotee like Maharaj Parishad, none of the material planets, even the topmost Brahmaloka, is as desirable as Golok Vrindavan, the abode of Lord Sri Krishna, the primeval Lord, the original personality of Godhead. This earth is one of the innumerable material planets within the universe, and there are innumerable universes also within the compass of the Mahatattva. The devotees are told by the Lord and his representatives, the spiritual masters or acharyas, that not one of the planets within all the innumerable universes is suitable for the residential purposes of a devotee. The devotee always desires to go back home, back to Godhead, just to become one of the associates of the Lord in the capacity of servitor, friend, parent, or conjugal lover of the Lord, either in one of the innumerable Vaikuntha planets or in Golok Vrindavan, the planet of Lord Sri Krishna. All these planets are internally situated in the spiritual sky, the Paravayoma, Paravayom, which is on the other side of the casual ocean within the Mahatattva. Maharaj Parishad was already aware of all this information due to his accumulated pity and birth in a high family of devotees Vaishnavas, and thus he was not at all interested in the material planets. Modern scientists are very eager to reach the moon by material arrangements, but they cannot conceive the highest planet of this universe. But a devotee like Maharaj Parishad does not care a fig for the moon, or for that matter, any of the material planets. So when he was assured of his that on a fixed date, he became more determined in the transcendental loving service of Lord Krishna by complete fasting on the bank of the transcendental river Yamuna, which flows down by the capital of Hastinapur in the Delhi state. Both the Gangas and Yamuna are Amrita, transcendental rivers, and the Yamuna is still more sanctified for the following reasons. Hare Krishna. This whole purport is only about Parishad Raja and the material planets and the Gangas, and how he was informed of his death within 7 days, and what he did. Uh, Hearing that, knowing that he's going to die in 7 days, and it talks only about how he sat firmly on the banks of the river to practice self-realization, and he achieved his goal, which was transcendental loving service to Krishna. And then it talks about devotees. They achieve Vaikuntha Lokas, Golok, Vrindavan, which is worshippers of Lord Sri Krishna, and that's the planets that they go to. And they never have to return back to the material planets anymore. When achieving that, it talks about that devotees are told, like, by their representative spiritual masters and acharyas, that these planets, they're innumerable planets. None of them are suitable for what? For devotees. Why? Because they're material. And why? Because they have three things: janam, maran, old age, and disease. So devotees always desire to go back to Godhead only. That's the only desire: how to serve Krishna more and more, and to go back and to become an associate of Krishna. In one of his planets, he has innumerable planets, and it talks about how that there are that Maharaj Parishad knew all these information about the other planets, and but even then he didn't have any interest, any desire for these other planets like moon planet and other planets that are out there, like in case of modern scientists, they are eager to reach the moon planet and other planets, though they cannot, because whatever research they do, they are not devotees, so that research is failed. It's incomplete. The knowledge that they are working with, the mind that they're working with, it's defective within four things. So all the research they do are wrong. All the planets that they go and see, they're also wrong. Nobody can reach the planets because the planets are Krishna's planets, and in order to reach those planets, you need mercy of Krishna. And but on the other hand, Parishad Raja is not very highly interested in these planets, that are innumerable in countings. So all he cares about is, um, transcendental loving service. That's the only thing his mind is determined on, Lord Krishna, you know, and he found the suitable place for that, the bank of the river of Yamuna, which is very transcendental, and and then he decided to fast on those 7 days, not to eat anything, because he wanted to do some transcendental tapasya in the bank of Yamuna. So he decided that he shouldn't take any food stuff within those 7 days before leaving his body, and which is known capital of Hastinapur in Delhi now. So the state in Delhi. So and then they talk about the Gangas and Yamuna, that they're transcendental rivers, so they're not rivers of this planet. They're actually people can go there and do some tapasya and sanctify themselves, bathe in it, do some puja, deepdan and everything, and they can actually purify themselves just by saying Ganga's name or Yamuna's name, or bathing in it, or putting a lamp in front of them, giving them a lamp. They can actually purify their mind, their bodies, and their senses. These rivers are that much transcendental to one's being. It's that much importance. And so what Parishad did, he actually didn't pick any other place other than Ganga to get some self-realization within these 7 days. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Over to you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mate. Yeah, so as Mate nicely explained, so one thing after the notice came, Parishad Maharaj did was he focused on Bhakti Yoga only. He rejected all the other practices because he knew Bhakti Yoga will give the highest achievement compared to all other processes like that. We know even from Bhagavad Gita also that Krishna asserts how Bhakti Yoga is the topmost, because even all the other processes, to achieve whatever result that they need to give also, for example, they'll give liberation, that also can only come if some bhakti is added to this, added to gnana, bhakti is added to yoga like that, Ashtanga Yoga, then only they'll get the result. Whereas bhakti is independent and bhakti can give the highest result. Like Mataji described, when we understand the temporality of this material world, whether it is in this planet or Brahmaloka or some Swargaloka, then we don't aspire for those temporary benefits. For example, if somebody says, I'll give you $100, but I'll give you $100, but that today, but that means you cannot get $1 million after 1 month. Any intelligent person will say, I don't want $100 now. After 1 month, I'll take $1 million. So like that, if you go to take a diversion, exit, going to Swargaloka or Brahmaloka like that, is like taking $100 benefit gift from somebody by denying the $1 million benefit coming by going to spiritual world. So that's why intelligent person is a devotee. They'll always consider every moment, every decisions that they make in life. Am I taking $100 and losing $1 million? Like that, from spiritual value perspective. When we have that clarity, then we can resist the lower demands of the senses also, lower diversions we take in terms of not pursuing the goal seriously, sincerely like that, then we work for the $1 million in this analogy. Similar to that, we work for a higher benefit, which will eternal benefit like that. So that is the overall idea for this verse. And then, of course, the next verse will talk about more about Ganga and Yamuna. If you notice, the verse is talking about Ganges. And Prabhupada is saying that Delhi is closer to Yamuna, not Ganges. That's why he's bringing up the Yamuna in the purport also. But he'll elaborate on that point coming up in the next purport also. So we'll see that. Yeah. So that's the main points in this purport. Any other comments or questions on this verse?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Just a curiosity question. I mean, so the Parikshit Maharaj fasted for 7 days. Is it like he intended to do as an austerity, or it just happened that he got absorbed so much in Krishna Katha that he ended up fasting? I don't know if I missed it somewhere. It's mentioned.
Yeah, he intended to fast only, but while he's doing it, he realized, oh, I'm not feeling hungry and thirsty also by hearing Krishna Katha. But his intention started with fasting only.
So why then he intended to fast, Prabhuji?
This is a question recently somebody was asking. Basically, the idea is to support. You know how devotees gradually reduce the demands on the body as they grow in devotional service. Gradually reduce the demands of the body, and when they go to close to the end of the life, then they realize what is the use of maintaining this body. Then I'll just maintain myself by Krishna Katha, and then body will go soon. That way I can go to my destination soon. Like that they'll say. Somebody was asking this question for pure devotees, why do they fast before death like that? For example, most devotees we hear that they don't want to eat any more food for some time. Then they'll say, I don't want to drink water also like that. That's so they leave the body. Even great acharyas like that. So like that, in that context, somebody was asking. So that is just that they don't want to stay in this body much longer, because they know they're waiting for a better destination anymore coming up, and then they focus on their consciousness on Krishna like that. That is my recollection, Mataji. But I can look up if there is anything better answer for that also. Anybody else remember anything else on this topic?
I think Prabhuji, what you said about it's tapasya, and I think you said something about the second thing that you said was correct about being fasted for some 7 days. He did it because I don't remember your exact words, but you said something, and I think that is the right answer.
Yeah, basically intention was to fast, and then later on by Krishna Katha, while hearing Krishna Katha, he didn't feel hunger and thirst also. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah, that's what I remember, Mataji. If I hear something else, I'll tell you. Somebody was asking this question. There is a nice answer also. I don't remember the full answer, so I shared with you what I remember.
I mean, I'm always fascinated by this fact.
Also,
Since the first time sorry, Mataji.
It is very helpful. It is very helpful to fast. When you're listening to Bhagavatam, it is very helpful to fast. That's why also in ISKCON we eat at 9 o'clock and we have Bhagavatam at 8 to 9. And Prabhupada has done that method, because it's actually very, very tapasya to fast while you hear Bhagavatam. It gives you lots of merits. And when you hear Bhagavatam and you empty stomach, and then afterwards you go and then you eat prasadam, and then you relish the katha, that's going on in your mind that you just heard. So Prabhupada used to do the exact same thing. He didn't eat anything. He first gave the katha, and then afterwards he took his prasadam. So it's like it's very assumptuous, and it's a tapasya.
Thank you, Mataji, for sharing. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yeah, thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, good. Yeah, sure, Mataji. Okay. Any other comments or questions? Okay, we can end here. We can start in the next verse next time, 6th verse. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Sri Prabhupada ki jai. That's all for business to all the devotees of the Lord. Panchakalpatarubhyasya kupasindubhyevacha paditanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Thank you, devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna to all.
Thank you, Prabhu.